Hello, everybody. It is Monday, February 8th, 2021. My name is Mike Langford. Welcome back to another episode of DearBands Live, podcast that explores the paths and stories of career-minded artists and music industry professionals. My guest tonight, Mr. Ian Bodzasi, producer, mixer, recording engineer. Ian, how you doing?
Good. Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you, too. I'm trying to think of the last time you actually saw each other in real life.
It would have been, even before things went sideways, it would have been a little while, probably.
Do you remember the first time we saw each other in real life? Because we knew each other from Facebook.
Did we meet at Indie Week?
Yes. So I think it was you and I, and then Ashton Price.
Right.
And like the three of us, not the three of us, but like neither Ashton or I had like met you in real life.
No, I had met Ashton years ago on a writer's camp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. I think we were at Brooklyn.
I don't remember. I thought it was in the hotel at the conference thing.
Yeah, and we might have said that we were judging together.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, because I think we were at Brooklyn because I had a friend that worked there, and
okay.
I kind of had to. I remember having to like shut certain things down, being like, "Don't go crazy just because we're here."
Oh yeah, okay. This is coming back to me.
But yeah, no, that would have been many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it's like a lot of us, we don't get to see each other in real life unless it's conferences,
studio hallways.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah. Oh, hey, how's it going? Good. I gotta get a coffee, and I'm back at Story. They need me in the thing. Yeah, and that's the extent of catching up we get to do.
No, it's good. It's been good. You mentioned that you checked out a bit of Dejan's episode on this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to catch up. With
it is. Yeah. It's funny. I saw you guys share that, and so I hopped on and was watching a little bit, and I'm just like, I wish I was just like at a bar with you guys hanging out and just hanging out.
Well, we're here now. This could be maybe what I'll do is I'll get an overlay for the bottom, and it'll look like there's a bar there, and we're hanging out at the bar. So, how you been?
Not too bad. Everything's sideways, but still working and breathing. So I can't complain really.
You say things are sideways, and we were chatting about it briefly before we hopped on here. I was of the thought that like you're in studios like all the time, and you do a lot of mixed stuff, so you've got your own room for that. So I was wondering like how was 2020 for you?
Well, I've only been mixing, and it's funny, even before that, like I would track a lot, but most of my work has been mixing for a number of years now. And so, the stuff that gets shared on social media is usually tracking just because the photos are cooler than cool. Like the one. And my mix room is so small that there's kind of only one angle you can take a photo from. And so, it tends to just be the same thing over and over. So the tracking tends to be the stuff that gets shared on social media because it looks a lot cooler. But yeah, no, I've kind of always been mixing a lot, or I guess more and more over the years. And then, since things went sideways last March, it's been exclusively mixing since then. I haven't done anything in person. And some tracking stuff got put off. Other things got canceled. Other things are just kind of delayed, and we'll get to them once it's safer. But yeah, since most of my work has been mixing the last few years anyway, it wasn't really a huge change. I'm used to people not attending and just sending files, and you talk about whatever and send some notes back and forth, and often there's not even a phone call involved. It's all over email.
Yeah, it's like, when do you think your last like in studio session was? Because like I shut my stuff down. I think it was March last year.
Oh god, probably January or February. Like I don't think I had anything imminent. There was one tracking thing I had to cancel, but aside from that, everything at that time was mixing anyway.
Yeah, it was just I was in the similar boat where people are asking, like the school, we stopped our program 2 weeks in, and yeah, there was a couple sessions that I had where we were gonna go in and track stuff, and I'm like, well, let's just wait and see what's going on. But some of those projects we just started working online.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a problem with it because I'm like, well, if there's issues, like I trust everybody. If there's issues, we'll just retrack it.
Yes, we'll just deal with it. It's fine.
That's what we do. Yeah. So now it's funny too because like I don't know how you feel about it, but like I don't really like a lot, and people who know me would laugh. But like I don't really like attendance sessions for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I'll kick bands out when we're tracking vocals and stuff. So I'm like, I just need me and the vocalists are good. Like I get everyone.
Yeah. It depends on who it is and what it is. And
Yeah.
I mean, for mixing, like I've never minded people attending as long as, people aren't sort of right in your ear the whole time. But if people are just chilling on the couch or whatever, like that's fine. And that's how I always grew up, like working on stuff. So I was used to that. But in my own space, I kind of prefer maybe people not attending. If they want to, it's fine. But I think people get bored maybe a little easier watching. It's one thing in a big room where there's a desk and faders are moving and there's beer to look at and there's a lounge to hang out in and all that stuff. But like if 90% of the day is the back of my head in front of Pro Tools.
Yeah, and you're clicking around.
Yeah, there's
check your email for a second.
Yeah.
Check some memes. You're like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I just like I thought about attended mix sessions, like even at my old place, and because like I can't sit down and just be like you don't want to have like a deadline where you just have to sit and just get it done. But like if I'm really not feeling something, like I kind of don't work on it. So the idea of like if you have people in, you're supposed to mix something, because you can get a lot of a mix done in a short period of time if you're like in the zone.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you're not in the zone, you're just moving a snare drum EQ around for like.
Yeah, no, and actually that's a great point. Like, I'm in the same kind of boat. Like, if you're not, if I'm not feeling something, or I'm just not in, not to say to be lazy or anything, but if you're in a weird place that day or anything like that, or you're tired or whatever, you'll get it done 10 times faster and better to just do it fresh when you can be in the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of going with it. It's like, I think there's some, I don't want to say upside, but silver lining with just like people being able to work at home a little bit or have that more, that space around them to get some of the work done. And again, with DearBands, it's always meant with love, but I feel sometimes with the bands and artists, like there's a romantic element to recording. Mm-hmm. And they cost money, and they do invest in it and spend money on it, and like they want to be there for the process. And part of it's just like it's not that exciting at times.
Yeah.
And because I think we were talking about it last week with Jeff Delzeal on here, and it's like TV and movies have kind of ruined what's actually going on, because there's probably a very brief period of time in like the 70s and 80s where like studios were crazy. And it's like, they're kind of not crazy. It's kind of like it's expensive still.
Yeah.
They're tired.
Kind of on that too, where, okay, so we're mixing whatever track today. Okay, let's start at 10. Okay, we'll all be there at 10. It's like, no, if I'm starting at 10, you guys show up at like 2 in the afternoon.
Like 3.
Because the first few hours are really nothing exciting to, just cleaning things up and assigning things and, kind of figuring out what's what. Like there'll be nothing to listen to until way later in the day. Yeah,
like if you wanna hang out, but just saying, this isn't the good part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I'll finish that out. I didn't have a problem with people coming in for tweaks and touch ups and stuff.
Of course.
Because it's like you're also now you're hearing it where I was hearing it. Because you're listening in your space, and someone's listening in their car or listening on their phone or something like that. You're like, okay, it might be a little bit different, but if you come in, you can hear what I'm hearing and you can find
and balance. Depending on what it is too, and sometimes it's just, and I'm always fine either way, but sometimes it's just easier if they're in the room with you for that part. and can go, oh yeah, we kind of wanted this more like whatever. Oh no, not like that, like this. Oh, okay, I got it now. Or split the difference or whatever, instead of sending 3 or 4 versions back and forth. It can definitely simplify that.
Have you been doing, like, speaking of mixed stuff, have you got anything rigged up into your system where you can like play it real time for them
No,
to do mixed stuff? Like,
no, I keep meaning to check out. I think it's SessionWire. I keep seeing people talk about. But yeah, no, I'm just so used to just firing a mix off, and either they send notes or come in, that I haven't really needed to do that yet.
I've thought about it because even like using StreamYard, like I've done some vocal sessions using StreamYard
Yeah.
where like we're not tracking vocals, but like we can listen to stuff. Like, I don't know how well it would translate, but passing a mix across that way. But
I've kind of looked at it a bit, and just to sort of know what software might be the easy thing to use if that starts to come up.
yeah,
Because yeah, I mean, you can always direct somebody to put a mic in the right place of an amp, or
yeah,
make sure their vocal compressor is not pushing too hard or something, and just guiding through takes and whatever. But yeah, I haven't had to actually set it up yet.
well, in a way, hopefully we don't get there, but in the same way too, it's like I've been enjoying, bands and musicians like recording themselves and learning, and because like I'm totally cool with just more mixed gigs,
Oh yeah,
'Cause you can only hit record so many times until you're like, I'm good.
Okay. Well, no, and like with those kind of things, I think that people end up using them for a while even after this. Like, yeah, it's great when everybody can be in the same room together, but sometimes it's not really necessary.
You're seeing
Or
it
if
now.
it's going to be a short vocal session or something like that, where you could just tune in for a couple hours and still have decent quality audio going back and forth to really hear what's going on. I think even once things kind of go back to normal, I think it'll kind of turn into a bit of both for a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think it is for the greater good for a lot of bands recording.
Yeah,
Because they can kind of go at their own pace a little bit, or just learn what goes into it.
absolutely.
Because there's a lot of back end that goes
Yeah.
into getting some of these tracks together, and stuff like that. So, you mentioned kind of going to like how you started out. You were working in studios on staff.
Yeah,
Starting out?
I going way back, way back. I started as an intern when I was like 17. So that was out at Metalworks.
Oh, okay. 17 at Metalworks. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So even before assisting, sweeping floors, answering the phone, no voicemail at the time. So writing down messages, a lot of cleaning. If you're lucky, maybe help a band load in, that sort of thing. That was my first.
How did you get that?
High school co-op.
Oh, that was how you got the door open.
That was high school co-op. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those things. Is it's like that was the story of like half jokingly, it's like to get into a studio, you got to go in and sweep the floors and like get the coffee and just like get in there, and then eventually someone's not going to make it in, or they're going to need somebody, and you're like, I know, I know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even go quite that far.
Give me a shot.
Well, I mean, as an intern at that age and with like zero training other than anything that I'd picked up there, and I did learn a lot from doing that just kind of through osmosis. But they weren't, that wouldn't be, something pretty bad would have had to happen for the 17-year-old intern to end up on a session like that there. But certainly once into the assistant stage, absolutely that would happen. Yeah, the engineer's sick. The engineer's got the flu or whatever. You're in the hot seat. All kinds of other things that would come up last minute, or all of a sudden whatever band is in and somebody's engineering there, but they want to get a second room going. they're still cutting beds in this room, or
Yeah.
they're mixing in that room, whatever. Well, they also want to be cutting vocals. You're up. Yeah, so that would start to happen later.
So high school co-op, did you know in high school that this is a career path you were considering, or you just thought it was kind of cool? Or
Not until I was there for, I don't know, pretty quickly. It's funny. I really signed up for co-op not having a plan. I thought maybe something to do with music. I was in bands at the time and stuff. And of course a huge music fan. And so I just figured something around that, maybe a radio station or something cool, whatever. And school started, and first week of co-op, and you have the meeting with the co-op teacher, and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, something in music.
something cool.
And I grew up in Mississauga, and so Metalworks was, 10 minutes away. And it's like, oh, well, there's this studio. So I went to the interview and got it. But it really wasn't, and it was funny because like growing up, I would always look at liner notes of things and stuff like that. But it never occurred to me as a job. And then once I was there and saw all the things happening and what actually kind of goes on behind the curtain in a big room, you could really see the light bulb go off over my head. It was like, oh my God, this is a job? Like this is what it never occurred to me until I started there. And then from there, it was like, okay, this is what I have to do.
Well, that's awesome. Because I never thought that like you would go into Metalworks being like, oh, I'll just it's co-op, it's credit.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
So intern to assistant.
I did 2 internships there actually.
Nice.
So that was
go back for seconds.
That was 17. And then when I finished high school, I tried to get into Fanshawe and didn't get in my first time. And so I had a year off in between and didn't know kind of what to do. The plan was to apply to Fanshawe again. It was a really oversubscribed program. And actually most people didn't get in there their first try, at least in my time there. And so there was this other program at the time run by the province called the Futures Program. And what they would do, it was through the YMCA or something. And what would happen was a company would get an intern. You'd go do that, and the province would pay your salary. So companies loved it because, they're getting free labor. Worked out for whoever was doing the thing, and the province would and so you're actually still making a bit of money.
Yeah.
It was like minimum wage or whatever for 40 hours a week or whatever it was. But yeah, so when I didn't get into Fanshawe my first try, I had known about the Futures Program because Metalworks had other people through it when I was there before. And so I called up the studio. I'm like, I got nothing to do. If I can get myself into the Futures Program, can I come hang out for another few months or something? And they're like, yeah, of course, we'd love to have you back. Sure. Yeah. So did that, and then got into Fanshawe my second try. And then out of Fanshawe, got a staff assistant job at Metalworks.
So back to Metalworks.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. How many years was that process of like bouncing back and forth at Metalworks?
Well, that was 1994 when I first went in. And then I was at Fanshawe 97 to 99. And then so I got my actual staff job like spring of 99.
And what was the transition like between being an intern there and then being like staff there?
A lot more work all of a sudden, like really kind of thrown into the fire. I think I did my first month without a day off, and that wasn't an uncommon thing at all.
No.
The hours at the time, a standard hour pretty much across the city, or standard day was 12 hours. And so as the assistant, you're there at least an hour before everybody else, if not more. By the time you set up a bunch of mics and align the tape machine and the whole thing. The band's going to take, at least an hour break for lunch, probably something for dinner as well, maybe. And then if it's a single day session, you're going to be there for another hour or two tearing down afterwards. And things just had more budget back then. So people didn't really care about overtime as much. And, if instead of the 12-hour day, it turned into 15 or 16, nobody blinked. And then so all of a sudden you were doing a 16-hour day plus your couple-hour tear down, your hour
travel.
lunch, when you're still really working in that hour lunch break.
Yeah.
Like the band's eating lunch. You're trying to figure out why the vocal mic isn't working, and striping another reel of tape and doing whatever else.
Yeah, the band's eating, and then they're offering you food, but you still have things you need to do, and you're trying to be polite about it usually.
Oh yeah,
like,
exactly.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm
grumble,
good
grumble,
because I know that you guys won't be able to get back to work until I get this other thing happening. So all of a sudden your 12-hour day is, a 15, 16, 17-hour day.
And then the travel on either side to get back and forth.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all that.
Yeah, so 20-hour day is not crazy.
Either way, and, yeah.
Yeah, no, the days can be crazy. And yeah, like the idea of like nonstop. And I don't know if you had this feeling, but like I had this when I started earlier, the idea of like, if I don't take the shift or take the gig, or someone else will. And
absolutely.
They might get the call.
Absolutely.
And like, it's difficult to feel like you've got your foot in the door, and it's like,
no, and that actually touches on something really true. So when I was leaving Fanshawe, before I actually got the assistant gig, I had called every studio in Toronto, and nobody was looking for somebody. And this is kind of before everybody was on. Like, you had to actually pick up the phone and call somebody to knock on doors for these guys and say, "Hey, are you hiring?" And nobody wanted anybody. And so, I called Metalworks, and they weren't looking for anybody either. But I had sort of, I would go and hang out if I was back for Christmas or March break and those sort of things, and help wrap cables and do the same kind of stuff. And so they were like, well, we don't need anybody, but, if you want to hang out and intern a couple of days a week, you're welcome to do that, and we'll help try to find you something. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. That's cool. I'm into that. Because exactly, like, you want to kind of be around when that gig happens. So I moved back from London at Fanshawe back home to Mississauga, and I'm not back for more than a couple of days, and the phone rings, and it's the studio manager, and he goes, "Ian, what are you doing?" "Having lunch." Like, what? He goes, "Can you drop everything?" "Yes." "Come see me this afternoon." And went and talked to him. The next day I had a job. So yeah, exactly. And if you're not there, somebody else is getting that call.
Yeah, it's tough, because it's like that's part of the mindset, and you don't want to think it's like that you're going to miss something. But it's like, because I remember, like, because I didn't have a cell phone for the longest time, and like on my days off, being kind of not say afraid to like leave and go do anything, but just like needing to be near the phone in case something happens. It got to a point where like, this is ridiculous. I need to get a cell phone, because like I need to be able to go do stuff, and if the phone does ring, I have it with me.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think of a way to word it, because I don't know if we have. We have that as much these days, because there's a lot of people are working from home. A lot of people are working from project studios, and like kind of carving out their own path that way. But just like, yeah, like it was a different, like, I feel like I caught the tail end of it. It's just a different time with studios where like you're afraid of losing your job just to somebody else who can show up and do the job that day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You want to be available. Like, someone wants to hire you. You want to be available. I mean, you can only not be available so many times before they just call somebody else in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's, something urgent, or they've got to lock in a booking, or you're just booked on something else.
Yeah.
And if it's a client that you've got a relationship with, then things sometimes come back, but you can only be not available so many times.
So I feel like it too. Like I didn't know very many people, engineers, mixers that ever took vacations.
Yeah.
'Cause again, the idea of like leaving for a week or two,
Yeah.
and I feel like when people did go on vacation, it was like they left for like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah,
don't call me. It's like, what happened to so and so? Oh, they're on vacation. They're like
Yeah.
they're finding themselves right now.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. I mean, we've talked about this too. Like, it does always seem to go in waves, and so yeah, I'll have that week off whenever. And I will try to sort of carve out some long weekends or longer things at the cottage and stuff like that. And at this point, it's kind of easier to do that. And sometimes people will wait for you to be back and whatever. But yeah, it's tricky because you don't want to like book a flight to something and then have to turn down a gig for
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Artist X is like, yeah, we want to come in during this time. They're like, farts. Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, because I mean, there's some things that just cannot, like, it has to be this day or this week or whatever it is. Just that's when the gig is, and either you're available or you're not. I mean, I wouldn't say that I've purposely not booked vacations, but I end up with everything going in waves all the time. I end up with some time off every year anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you got a bit of a cycle, it's easier to plan around it. But I know I'm throwing this out there because like I know some people that I feel are working themselves like to the bone trying to get all this stuff done, and it's like it's okay to turn down gigs once in a while if you need the time, because like they're if you're going to do, and I think if your heart's in the right place and your work's good, like more work will keep coming. So it's okay to not take every single thing that comes in. Like 24 hours in your day,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a balance there too, where you say yes to too many things or overbook yourself too much, and all of a sudden you can't get everything done in whatever timeline there is, or your computer crashes and you're down for 3 days and now everything's chaos, or like any number of things can always happen that make a project go sideways. And so if you're too overextended, then I mean, one, I just don't want that kind of pressure all the time. And it's good to have a little bit of buffer room for when those things happen. I mean, I was going to go in last week and mix something, and the power was out for the whole neighborhood for the day. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going in. Good, good thing there's a little bit of buffer on everything that I book.
Because there's no power.
Yeah, no electricity
from my iPhone.
I kind of can't mix. Yeah.
All right, so you've moved up to assistant at Metalworks. Just trying to think, do you have any memorable projects or memorable sessions early on where you're just like that moment you're like, this is awesome, or like that imposter syndrome of like, what am I doing here?
Well, that's every day, I think. Yeah, there's been a handful of sessions that were like, okay, they weren't very early on, I don't think, because even at being an assistant, there was another assistant who had been there a year longer than me. So you must know Joel Casme.
Name's familiar.
Okay, he had been there a year longer than I had. So he would always be on the sort of I wouldn't say the higher end projects, but he would always be assisting the outside engineers that came in. And for the first while, I would assist the other staff engineers. But if there was something, in that first maybe 6 months or so, if there was something super high end, it's not going to be the new person. It's not going to be the new assistant, right? But yeah, there was 4 or 5 times where it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. Not always an assistant too. There was a couple that were as an engineer. They're like, okay, this is really cool.
Well, actually, to explore that more, like what are some of those sessions where you're just like, this is awesome?
One was assisting on a Tina Turner session.
Like legit Tina Turner came in?
Yeah. Yeah.
With
Yeah,
or without Entourage?
With Entourage. She was on tour and had a few days off before wherever they were going next and had to get this track in. So the band came in the first day. And the whole band are incredible. Like a lot of them play. I mean, of course they are, right?
It's all just smoking musicians.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I mean, most of the band were, either played with, Elton John or people like that. Yeah, and then Tina was in the second day to cut her vocals and stuff, and then the third day was the mix. So that was one, just sitting in the room listening to her, and the whole band was just, staggering. And yeah, lots of entourage, the whole band, everybody had a tech, lots of management, chef, security, like the whole thing. A kind of organized chaos. Like there was a lot of people around and there was a lot happening and things were moving very, very quickly. But there was everybody for a job and everybody was at the top of their game in whatever they were doing, whether it was like management or tech for one of the band or, any of the musicians or backup singers or anybody. And I mean, Tina, of course, was just incredible. Yeah. So everything just at the height of professionalism, from, start to end. But yeah, that was one of the cooler ones.
That sounds pretty awesome. The end of that session, how did you feel? Like when the last musician, the last entourage, last whoever's like walked out the door and it's just staff.
I don't think I really remember. I mean, I'm sure it was a lot of just like
decompressing for a second.
I'm sure there was some decompressing because like things were moving fast, and those kind of sessions, you just have to keep up. You just have to.
Yeah.
Like there's no pausing. Like things are just gonna move at this pace, and you just have to keep up, and that's just how it is. And so yeah, like you might take those kind of moments and step back and think, okay, this is really pretty cool. But you're working. You just got to be in it.
Yeah, I think with some people that again, there's a romantic element of recording. When they think of what goes on in the studios, they don't realize like when you're in it and you're busy, you're not enjoying the enjoying-y stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like because part of it too is like you're there to make sure things are running smoothly, but you're also there to, I use the term, to hide the body at times if things aren't working or if something's broken or it's like whatever, because you need to make sure that everyone just thinks everything's going smooth the whole time. And so like you're also paid for your experience to know how to put out fires.
Yes.
And there's the idea, it's not like you're not going to spend like 2.5 hours putting a microphone on a guitar amp. It's like just get the guitar amp up and running. And
not only to be able to put out the fires, but, ideally keep the session running smooth enough that the client doesn't even know there was a fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a lot. There's even in live. There's the show the audience sees. There's the show on stage.
Oh my God.
And there's the show that the side stage that the crew knows is going on.
That's why I've never gotten into doing front of house stuff. And I have so much respect for people that do that. Absolute worst case in my situation in a studio thing. Worst case, something's on fire, whatever. You can tell the band to go get lunch. You got to keep things running and all that. But if it doesn't, if it's actually not working and you need to deal with, and you need some time to deal with something, worst case, you can tell the band to go get lunch. And there might be repercussions of that, and people might not like it and whatever. But it can happen. Live,
you can't tell the crowd to go get lunch.
Yeah. You can't.
Everyone go to the bar. Just gotta figure this out. Patch 17's not working.
No, I don't want to say I don't work well under pressure, but like I don't think I would work well under that pressure.
It's different. It's because like I thought about it like maybe 10 years ago. I thought about live sound. I'm like, I think it'd be cool, and traveling and stuff like that. So I was looking into it quite a bit. But like, again, in the studio side, if things go sideways, just shut it down for the rest of the day. Do something else for a bit. But like
Yeah.
live, it's like you have to do it right now. It has to work right now.
Yeah, a mic goes down in the studio and it's not going. Okay, we'll grab another mic.
Yeah, just do it
Just
again.
grab coffee like 5 minutes. And either figure it out or get another mic or however you need to deal with it. But yeah, live that's not happening.
Yeah, it's a different beast. I'm sure you could have some of the front of house, some of been mixing and studio stuff, and just trade off the stories of just like what the actual stresses
Yeah.
of things, but the stress of live. And again, some of the bigger productions I've been around, I'm just like there's a lot of moving parts, and or even the thing too. It's like we can half joke about consoles catching fire or smoking or like expensive microphone gets dropped and stuff like that. One of the tours I was on had pyro, and one of the pyro things went off on stage like during sound check.
Oh my god.
And like the horn went off, like the alarm went off, and then just everybody off the stage, and they wouldn't let anybody on the stage like figure out what happened, because like if someone had been standing beside it,
Yeah.
like it's not that you might have been on fire, it's that you would have been on fire.
Yeah.
And like again, there's a lot, and even like the rigging for like the speakers and line arrays and stuff like that. It's like things can go south real quickly.
Yeah.
And like I feel like at a studio, it's like, oh, someone tripped over that carpet piece that's been an issue for a while. Someone hit their head on something. It's like it's not even
a 421 fell off a cliff and landed on somebody.
hit someone in the hand. So it's just it's very, very different, and that's my thing too. It's like the studio, it's like as much as it can be hectic, like it's still pretty relaxing
it is
of all the things.
The other thing too on what we're on the difference is, for me it's always been the process of seeing a song go from a scratch of something to a finished product, rather than the show. And like as much as I love mixing, it's something that I want to sink my teeth into for however long and automate a bunch of things and do whatever. And yeah, just more seeing the whole process from start to finish unravel, rather than, okay, this is the show and we made it sound great and let's do it in another town tomorrow. Yeah, and I get why people love each, but yeah, it's always been part of the process that kept me to the studio thing too.
So let's flip to the other side. So we've had Teen Turner is one of the gigs where you're like, this is freaking awesome. You don't need to name any names, but is there any projects or bands or artists you can think of where you're just like, this is a grind? Like I don't know what's going on here.
Oh my God, how much time do we have?
StreamYard caps us at 4 hours.
There's countless horror stories, and some of the worst ones. Now, when I do have a bad session, there's a couple of sessions that we're probably stretching about a month or so, that were just nightmares. And now when I have a bad session, I honestly will look back on those and I'll be like, dude, you made it through that one. You're still alive. You're still here. You'll get through this one, whatever it is, and you learn. And yeah.
Well, for bands and artists listening, what are some of the qualities of a bad session?
Ooh, people showing up late. People showing up unprepared, not having the tools that they might need.
Like expecting you to have the tools?
Nobody brought any extra guitar strings or
9 volts?
Yeah, 9-volt batteries or drum skins or, that kind of stuff. Knowing the material inside out and backwards, being very, very well rehearsed and knowing the songs. And even that, there's the balance of that as well. We're still being open to change in the studio and not, this is the song, this is how it goes. We're not moving anything. There's kind of something in the middle there. Strong communication planning the session with whoever's involved, or is it between the producer, engineer, if there's an assistant at the studio, kind of anybody that needs to know? Because I've been on sessions where I thought we were doing vocals. I was told we were doing vocals, and then literally get a call from the band when they're 5 minutes away. Oh, so the whole band's coming. We're doing beds on another song today. As far as I knew, we were done bed tracks like 3 weeks earlier, and just into vocals at this point. So it's like, okay, that's fine. I could have had more set up, if someone had told me earlier. So take your time. If you want to get a coffee on your way, go nuts. Because I'm going to need a little bit more time to get set up now. Bad file prep. If you're bringing scratch tracks or guide stems or anything like that, having those prepared, and even send those ahead of time so that so the engineer can open them up and make sure everything's what it's supposed to be.
I want to say that the first one you said, showing up late, one of my favorites, because the thing is, there's two parts to this. One of my favorites is when they show up and then they tell you that they're just going to run out and grab a coffee or grab something to eat. It's like, this is not attendance in school. You can't just show up in class, make sure that the box gets ticked, and then go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's like, I personally, in the before times, I would rather someone show up having got their coffee or got their lunch and just been late.
Yeah.
Than to show up just to say that they're going to be back in a minute. Because that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Or they're here, but the person with the hard drive that's got all the files, they're stopping to get coffee for everybody, and they're going to be half an hour behind. Well, no, send that with whoever's going to show up first. Planning. Yeah, just plan things. Yeah.
The other flip side to the being late is super early and like because again, if session starts at 11 and someone's there at 10:15, and it's
that's when you're sort of you're having your coffee. I would say figure drink tea, but you're having your coffee and just taking your coat off and kind of thinking about how you want it. You're preparing yourself. You're figuring out how you might want to lay the room out, or maybe there's something from the other night that you're troubleshooting and you want to make sure works for whenever this client gets there. Thinking about how you want to set up the desk, or there's a lot.
That's your time.
Yeah, that's your time.
Yeah, because it's tricky because my old space, there was, I'm giving away a little bit here, but there was 3 doors basically to get in. There's the outside one, there's one bottom of the stairs, there's one outside the studio, and it's those would be locked. They'd be locked, and then I wouldn't answer my phone if I had set up and stuff to do because again, if people are gonna message me after and be like, you locked me in the alley for
you were there.
Yeah, you were there the whole time. No, but the thing is, it's you're getting set up and stuff, and it's just if you're there for 11,
just
10:45, 11:15, somewhere in there. I know it's Toronto.
It's Toronto, and
musicians' time.
Never predict traffic, and
it's
that's cool.
aim for there, but it's just super early, an hour before your session. I get that you're anxious to be there and stuff like that, but it's understand the studio, the engineers, producers, they need their time to get prepped too. Because if I know someone's showing up at 10, it's okay, now I want to be there at 9.
Yeah,
so that I can. Because also too, it's we're entertaining a little bit when the band's there, or the artist, because they want to interact. And if you want to put music on and set up for drums or something, or put a podcast on and just do whatever you're doing, it's you can't do that when the artist is there.
Yeah.
You can't be I'm gonna finish this movie while I set up drums.
Yeah.
I think there's some good stuff in there for bands and art, but being punctual, being on time, it's such a thing.
Yeah, and just communicate before the session. And then if there are any other, things that the engineer needs to know, you can figure that out. And, or even like, I mean, maybe some people don't mind showing up, like whatever, just ask, like, okay, would you mind if the drummer shows up, at 9? Well, no, I'm not going to be there. We said 10, so you can make it 10, whatever. But, just communicate all those things.
Yeah.
Just ask. Yeah.
Last thing I would say too, we know when we're going to be late. If it takes you 40 minutes to get somewhere and it's God. 10 to, you're going to be, one of the things that would drive me nuts is when, like, the session starts at 11 and they would like message at 11 that they're going to be late. It's like, at what point did you actually realize you're not going to be on time?
I had one once. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, or quarter after 11. They're like, I'm going to be late. It's like, no, I've already got that. Like, anyway.
I had one once where the standard day was 12 hours at the time. And the client had booked the room for the lockout day. So they've got the room for 12 hours. And whatever the start time was supposed to be, say it was noon. We were there all day. Nobody shows up. Can't get a hold of anybody. This is before everybody had a smartphone in their pocket and whatever, but I really wouldn't expect it to be much different with, there's a phone. In 12 hours, you can find a phone, right? Nobody from the studio can reach anybody from the management or label. Nobody knows where anybody is. So like 11:55, we've shut the place down. We've got all the lights shut off. We've closed everything up. We're at the front door punching in the alarm code to leave the building, and the phone on the front desk rings. And we're like, okay, we kind of have to answer that. And sure enough, it's the client, and we're right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. We'll be there in 5 minutes.
And then what?
Well, and then we worked till 3 a.m. or whatever it was, and we did the 3 hours of work that was all they needed to actually do, if that. But yeah, they, and it was something PO'd by a major label, so the bill was going to get paid. So the studio, and so yeah, like they had the room booked from 12 to 12. So we just kind of had to.
No, that's true.
So like, yeah, like to your point, you can find a phone. Like everybody's got a phone. Like just let somebody know that you're going to be late. Yeah.
Just thinking about it, because again, Metalworks studios in general, gear breaking during sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Any stories about that? Headphones, microphones, guitars, just issues, accidents.
Accidents. I mean, things breaking. Yeah, I've seen smoke come from an SSL. Drink spilled, for sure.
On the console?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And so you scramble. You know how to power the thing down safely. So you shut off the monitor so nothing goes pop, and you go right for the console power supplies. I did see. I mean, no gear was broken, but I saw some tall gobos get knocked over and domino, and the first one dominoes, the second one. Somebody just wasn't paying attention. They're out in the studio and on their phone, just not paying attention to what they're doing, and they bump into one of them, and it dominoes into the next. That one snaps in half and tears the fabric on the wall. Gear breaking. Yeah, I mean, stuff goes down all the time, and you just kind of deal, like, hopefully there's another one of whatever it is in the rack, or, if it's on a Neve or something, you can swap out modules or go to another channel if you're on a big enough desk, or, swap to another piece of outboard or something. And if there's something that's the same and it matches, awesome. Sometimes it's the same thing, but they don't sound the same, and that kind of sucks more. Depending what studio you're at, there may be techs on staff, and sometimes they'll be able to just open it up on the spot and take a look at things. So yeah, I mean, it happens, and you just kind of have to deal.
I was only bringing it up because, like, I don't think like, not say, don't think all, but musicians, like, sometimes they don't realize how expensive and delicate some of the gear is because of how we use the gear. We're like, we, run stuff hot and like, just the way we're kind of treating things because they're tools, but like we know how to use them, sort of thing. And there's a massive difference between someone like you or I having, like, holding our drink near something like that.
Oh my God.
But there's been times, and like I've been taught, it's just like, don't let, unless someone can pay for it, like legitimately pay for it, you're not allowed to walk around with your can of Coke or your beer or your coffee around a console. And I always would just tell them, like, it's not you, but it's someone before you. So now so they've ruined it. So like we can't have that.
Well, and you know what? I don't even trust myself with that. Like if
I wouldn't either.
No, if I've got a glass of water with me, like at my studio, it's, I've got a desk, and then there's not a console desk, but a desk that I work at, and then my laptop, my rig's in front of me, my laptop's off to the side, and my glass of water and my cup of tea are always on the other side.
Yeah.
And if I'm at somebody else's studio, it's either a bottle of water that's closed, or, in bigger rooms, usually it's, Pro Tools on a little cart, kind of, so you're sideways to the desk. And so I've just got my drink on there. But even for myself, I would never keep it on the desk. And it makes me so anxious when you see somebody do it. And I'll just kind of like, casually just sort of walk over and, maybe
move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's too late. When it's happening, it's too late. And that, even with the recording class, it's like, I would tell people, it's just like, have a lid on it.
Yeah.
So at least if it does get knocked over, you have a chance.
Yeah.
Because if it's just a, Tim Hortons cup or something like that, it gets knocked over, it's game over. Like, put it in a thermos.
Just keep it on the desk behind it. Like, it doesn't have
it's not a
to
table.
be...
Yeah.
No, it's not a table.
Console's not a table.
It's not a table.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure we've all seen horror stories, but it's just like when I see it happen, it's one of those things too, where it's just like when I see somebody who should know better do that, and I'm talking more to the assistants and interns and younger people in studios. Again, back in the before times, and you see them put the drinks down, and I would tell them right away. I'm just like, that's not a table. I don't care if you think I'm being a jerk right now. It's like, it's not a table, because you don't want to be that. You don't want that statistic.
Yeah, after this just happened, and why? If you can put your drink, here instead of here, it's just like, it shouldn't be a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll finish up the whole thing. Again, I rib people about merch tables. No drinks on the merch table.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times you got to stay up doing laundry.
Oh,
someone spilt a beer all over your merch table, and you.
That's just it. Like, it's not like they're not the ones that's going to have to deal with it. Something gets spilled or tripped on or whatever.
You know how they deal with it?
Yeah. You're the one that's going to have to deal with it. You're the one that might have a bunch of downtime or have to, again, hey, you've booked yourself totally solid and don't have that buffer time, and someone goes and spills a drink on something.
No, and that's the thing. It shows this is how the person who spills the drink deals with it. Sorry, man. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. That's it. And I feel like it's very similar with headphones getting broken or mic stands getting stripped or drinks getting spilled. Sorry, man. Sorry about that. Oh, man. Sorry. And it's like, that doesn't give me my time back or the money to replace it.
Yeah.
Because usually doesn't happen. So again, if you want to record at home and spill drinks all over your carpet, go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting back to the path here. Metalworks. So did you your transition from Metalworks? Did you leave to just go freelance, or how did that work?
I went sort of cold turkey. It got to the point so this was getting to the end of 2006, and I was the head engineer at that point, which was cool because you're getting
Okay, you skipped that part. How did how did you get to be head engineer there?
Seniority, really. The head engineer before me was Stu Young, who that's who I assisted on the Tina Turner thing. Amazing engineer, and that's probably who I learned more. I mean, I learned a lot from a lot of people, but that's probably who I learned more than anybody from. Um, and so yeah, once he left, I was next in line. There had been a bunch of other people that had been there for many years before me, but they had all sort of gone off and done their own freelance thing in between as well. So so I just kind of got to that point in the ladder, and yeah, it just got to be the kind of thing where I wanted to be able to pick and choose projects a little bit more. There were, like, as the staff engineer, it's great because there's a lot of things you don't have to deal with that you do as a freelancer. As far as booking and scheduling and billing and maintenance, and and unless you have your own place, you just all those other things that go along with doing this other than being in the control room. And as the staff engineer, on a day off between sessions, you might have to do some maintenance or whatever, but otherwise you're just coming in and doing your session and going home. Anyways, I wanted to be able to pick and choose projects a little bit more. And as the staff engineer, you're getting assigned to projects. The phone would ring, client wants to book the studio. If it's people that you've worked with before, they'll probably either ask for you, or they would just always try to keep the same engineer on things for consistency. But that's how you would be on things. And some of them I liked more than others. There were some really awesome gigs that came through the door and that I got to be part of. Some that I maybe didn't have as much fun on. I was also starting to get approached by artists that wanted me to do something with them, but because of budget or whatever other reason, they weren't able to do it there and wanted to do it at a smaller studio. And the arrangement as a staff engineer was you're exclusive to that studio. So I didn't like the idea of turning things down. And I don't want to say that I got stale on things, but working in the same 3 or 4 rooms all the time was great because you know each of those rooms inside out and backwards, and you can make things happen really quick in them, and you know how to maximize what happens in them. But there's a lot of great studios in Toronto, and I wanted to be able to check out a few more, and just kind of for different experiences for myself. And that was sort of that catalyst.
So how many years were you at Metalworks then total?
Well, on staff from like mid 99 to the end of 2006. Okay. And then so that's like not counting internships before that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, round it to 8 years or so, 7-8 years.
Yeah. That's still a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
You working, and that's like in one spot, but just like, bringing up the other studios that you're curious about doing some work in. Cause getting back to the artists and the bands, it's like, again, regardless of budget, there's a romantic element, and some of these other rooms, because Toronto's a lot of nice rooms.
There's a lot of great rooms in Toronto. Yeah.
And if you feel like you only got one room that you're supposed to be working out of.
Yeah. And even at that, okay, there's, 4 rooms that would be working out of in the one room. But still, I didn't want to fall into routines of things. And I've heard stories over the years about, other engineers where, they would just leave the same mic set up for every band that would come in, and whoever the client is kind of becomes interchangeable. And I didn't want to fall into that myself. Not that would be, a flaw of that studio or anything like that. Would be completely on me. There's always a million new things to do and to try. But I sort of felt myself kind of getting into patterns, and I just needed to mix things up. Yeah,
no, there's definitely some rooms where it makes sense, and some like niche studios, or like if you're just doing like metal bands, you've got your sound. If you're doing
Sure.
reggae bands, like you've got your sound. But again, with some of these bigger rooms, like they can be doing, a 20-piece like string section one day, the next day is a rock band, and then they're
Yeah.
doing an audiobook. It's like it could really go all over the place what they're working on. No, it's interesting because again, like I get the vibes, like you enjoy the recording process
Mhm.
and going into some of these other studios, like that's something to scratch your itch as well, to go
Totally.
work out of them and like get inspired being there. And also too, it's like I would consider it a huge compliment where these artists and bands that you're working with, they want to bring you to these
Mhm.
other studios as well.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that's one of
that's a huge, when you start getting those phone calls, that's a huge compliment, because it's not, okay, we're going to this studio and Ian happens to be the engineer.
yeah
It's like, no, Ian's going to be the engineer, and we'll figure out what studio to go to. Yeah, that's when that starts to happen. That's a pretty huge compliment.
yeah is that it's to get that through, especially with some bands. It's like the gear's good, but it's the people. It's
Mhm.
because the gear is just tools. It's like you need the people that know how to craft things with these tools,
Absolutely.
and be able to go into other rooms or like wherever you're inspired. It's like, well, let's go there and work. One of my favorite kind of pictures of the last couple of years is no pun intended slash coincidence, but Tool, the band, was like listening to their record where they were making it. And it was just like this little 3-seater leather couch in the back of a room, not much bigger than this. And I'm just like, this is probably not the crazy glamorous studio shot that some people would probably be thinking.
Yeah.
But they're working with the people they want to work with, and that's where they
Yeah.
work, and everyone's comfortable. And it's like, that's how, records can get made. It's like, it's with the people. And like
Absolutely.
And like
Yeah.
we've been super distanced the last year, and it's like, well, we can still communicate online. We can still get ideas around and stuff like that. So that's always my piece of advice. It's like, make sure you're going to the studio because the people that you want to work with are there. And also, like, everybody is, 1 or 2 degrees separation away. If you don't know who's there, like, you can probably look them up on Facebook or LinkedIn or something, and see if the people are there that you want to work with, and see if there's a vibe there, and then go in and get some work. Well, back when we can get studios open again, but then you can get some work done. But it's just like, make sure the people are there. If you're a band going somewhere because of a console, I don't
No,
know.
wrong idea.
I
Yeah.
don't know
I
about
mean, the
this.
console helped. The console
It's
helps
cool.
us.
It's cool, but
It's cool and it sounds good and whatever. But if you're not gonna click with whoever's sitting behind it, yeah.
yeah, because that can be a huge difference in how your project's going to turn out. Because when
Oh,
people
absolutely.
care, you hear
Yeah.
it. When people
Yeah.
got paid, you kind of hear that too.
Oh yeah. If somebody doesn't care, it doesn't matter what equipment they're buying.
No, and the time's
Yeah.
not going to be there either. Because I'm sure
Yeah.
you know what it's like. Or like, I'm getting paid this amount to do this, but it's going to take a little longer to get this done, and I'll get it done. Because there's other projects too. You're like, okay, that was pretty quick, and you got paid well for it. But it's like I find that's where the decision making happens. It's like, how much do I care about, this band or project right now? And it's like, make friends with these people, and then trust them too. Actually, this ties in. Cindy asked this question earlier when we were talking about mix stuff, and she said, when you mix songs for any artist, what trend do you see more? Does the artist put their faith in your mixing the song right, or does the artist have a lot of input in how the song sounds to their audience? Do you just mix it and you feel it out, or do you have the artist kind of?
It can really kind of go either way. There's a lot of clients that I work with regularly that I just know what they like now, and so I just go right for that. Other artists might give me completely free reign to just go like, yeah, we want to see your take on it. And yeah, other clients have a specific direction, and they might have a couple references for things. It can really kind of go anywhere in that spectrum. Yeah, and I guess for the most part, people kind of let me do my thing. I mean, I'll always ask, and we'll always have that conversation before we start. Like, is there, a reference that I should listen to that that's sort of what you want to capture? And sometimes that reference may or may not make sense. They might, they might think they like the mix, but they really just like the song.
You like the song.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's cool, but it has nothing to do with the song that we're working on.
You just wanted me to listen to music. Wait a second.
yeah, you just like the song. So that can certainly happen. But sometimes when people will give direction of like, yeah, no, we love the drums from this record and the guitar sounds from this record, and or maybe listen to this, but really just kind of how the vocals treated. That's what we really like about it. But there's, people might send a couple things in that, and then otherwise it's kind of do your thing, and then we'll tweak from there.
There's some trust, especially in the mix process. And I just think too, it's like, if you don't trust your mixer, then I think you got the wrong person mixing it.
Absolutely. There has to be trust all around in each of those, whether it's the engineer, the mixer, or the producer. There's got to be trust all around. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been senior staff at Metalworks. You've gone freelance after that. I don't know where this happened in the process. You worked on the Warriors video game.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of the game.
At Metalworks then.
Oh, big fan of the movie. When I saw your name on there, I was like, okay, at some point over probably iced tea and wings, we need to figure this one out. What's going on with the game? What was that process like?
That was kind of interesting because we were tasked with replicating the sound of the music in the film as close as humanly possible. So that was probably the biggest challenge of the whole thing. Trying to figure out a couple elements. We were really focused on getting the drums to sound the same. And there's in this sort of theme music that goes through the movie, there's this flange phasery
that
guitar
sound thing? Oh yeah,
that trying to match that. We really went deep. Name anything, anything, a pedal, a piece of outboard, whatever that has some sort of flanger phase or anything like that, and name it. We had it in the room and we played with it for an hour. Yeah, not exaggerating. Like,
no, it would surprise me.
We're pretty deep on that. Because the whole idea was to make it as authentic as could be done, and like even for the game, some of the voiceover stuff, which I didn't do. I recorded the band stuff. But some of the voiceover stuff, they had some of the original actors do that. Like it was really important to match everything as close as could be humanly done. And then it was kind of an interesting project because we would do, and this is the only thing I've done actually for a video game. So just to kind of see that world a little bit, for each, and I'm not a big video game guy, so, I may not get some of the things right, but like for each level of the game, there'd be idle music for when you're stationary, there'd be chase music, there'd be, boss music when you're fighting the boss at the end of the level, like all these different things. It was a ton of content, a real ton of content. The band was awesome. So once we sort of had things set, we were able to fly through things really, really quickly. Their band was called Never Odd or Even, Palindrome. Which was kind of awesome. But yeah, no, they were great. And so like once we sort of had all that stuff, we got through things pretty quickly. There was just so much content in it, and that was like that was one of those kind of month-long sessions without a day off where we're doing 18-20 hour days, the whole time. The last day of that session, we got kicked out of the studio because the next band was loading in. Like we were regularly going overnight and into the morning, and then go home, get a couple hours sleep, and come back. It was kind of crazy.
How long? I still got a couple more questions. How long was that process?
It was about a month. It was kind of in stages where we had first went in for a weekend or a few days or something to sort of demo the idea, or maybe it was just a day or two, to do kind of one or two tracks and see how well we could match some of these things and stuff. And then some time went by, and we went in for, it might have been a week or something, and the idea was to do one or two levels because they were going to be demoing it at the big video game
like
conference
E3 or something.
Yeah, it's something like that. So we were just trying to get a couple levels ready for that. And then that got done, and then some time passed, and then we got the green light to do the rest of the game. And so for that stretch, I think we might have been in for about a month of, overnight.
And did it feel like it just kind of like a rolling start, or did it just hit the ground running? Like,
that was kind of hitting the ground running. That one was something. It can sometimes it's a rolling start, but that one was hitting the ground running.
Just want to say, Dave's asking, "Are you live right now?" Yes, we are live right now.
Yes, we are, Dave.
You mentioned like the dynamic music. Again, when there's different things going on screen, it needs to like ramp up a little bit. I think the first game that had like dynamic music was Pitfall. I think it was Pitfall 3D or something. But the first game that I recognized that dynamic music was in Twisted Metal Black, that car combat game, because it is very orchestral sounds in it. But like when your car is like away from the action, it was like really like mild and just like a nice string pad. And then like when you get closer, like the horns come in and like it starts turning into a big thing. And I remember thinking like, this is awesome. Like this is super cool. Cause like I know that the music is like the thing, but when the screen stuff changes, the music changes with it. Like it's not just a song. It's like, it's all these layers are getting mixed together depending what the game is doing. Like almost like an AI thing. So I didn't think about the Warriors that way. But now that I think about it, it's like, yeah, there's a big fight scene going on and someone's throwing bricks and bottles around. It's like, it definitely picks up. Yeah. It picks up. So
yeah.
I'm just trying to think. So you had the band, and how many musicians in the band?
It was a 3-piece band. It was a 3-piece band, and then the producer from Rockstar Games was also doing all the keys and all the sound design and stuff like that, and all the synth stuff. So I think we might have had scratch tracks of some of that while we were doing it, but it was just the drums, bass, guitar in the room.
Yeah, because there's the element too. So I'm not sure if this fell on your plate, but like there's the coding side. Making sure that the music and all that stuff, the voiceovers are all going to land where they need to be. So I'm always curious, like how much of that, like how much of it's one thing on our end, we're like, okay, this is going to go onto Spotify or iTunes. So like we need to make sure the levels are a certain way. So it's going to translate on their end and they don't get grumpy about it. But like some of the recording decisions that would go into knowing that it needs to be coded together, we're just like down the road, this is going to be it's going to be a headache if we don't record it this way.
There were maybe certain things like that are coming to mind where like a lot of it's loops. So something might be a 32 or 64, but where, whatever.
Okay.
And then it loops around. But yeah, so with that kind of thing, like you had to be really conscious of, a tom can't hang over at the
how it feels
end, or a cymbal can't, you had to be aware of that kind of thing. I can't fathom, because that was just like one aspect of the audio too. There's also all the sound design and Foley and everything, and the dialogue, and everything else, and then a lot of layers of synths in that stuff too. It would have been. We started on tape too on that one.
You started on tape?
Yeah.
Like because you wanted to, or because
We just thought it would be closer to the original thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and then it just got to a point where like we were just going to have to get way too much done to keep doing it on tape, and we had to switch to Pro Tools at one point. Yeah, it would have been a lot. It would have been a lot for somebody to manage. It may have been Steve Donahoe, the producer, who ended up that falling on, because I know he was doing a lot of the sound design and stuff as well once he got back to the office. But
got a question here. Our friend Lori Langford.
Hey, Lori.
For given a script or any video, do you have any like visual references for when you work? Like any Inspirato around the studio? Any cardboard cutouts or
for Warriors?
Yeah, just like how, like just for the feel and stuff. Because it's like I know some people like they'll mix with like video and stuff on if they're curious about like to get the vibe for.
For that we didn't. There are, I mean, if something is going to be two picture, then ideally, which I haven't done, I haven't really done any like film stuff, but I've done a decent amount of live concert things. And so that definitely having picture,
Yes.
helps a lot. Even just to know, okay, the guitar player is over on this side of the stage and the, bass player is over there, just to even kind of have that stuff straight. But it also does sink you into it that much more when you've got, if there's going to be a visual, if you've got the visual, absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't always get it, but sometimes, and it's super helpful when you do.
If you mix something and then saw the video after and then watched it and be like, give me a minute.
Like to go back and,
to kind of figure.
Oh damn! I usually do drummer perspective on drums, but damn it, I don't think I've had any of those moments. There's been times where I haven't had video, but I found out along the way that there's going to be video, and so we'll at least kind of have those conversations that okay, this is going to be a live video kind of thing. Okay, I'll put drums the other way this time or whatever. Yeah, so sometimes you get it.
Yeah, I would say anybody, if you're mixing to video, get the video. And I think it's way easier.
Absolutely.
Because it's a whole like see a car, hear a car thing.
Yeah.
And like what we think sounds good, and then you see the video and you're just like, no, just make it sound right against this and you're good. So
yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think of anything else with the Warriors game. Because again, it's interesting because like a lot of recording, it's like we think about just bands and artists and like songy songs all the time. But like there's still a lot of things that need to get recorded. And I can only imagine where you start on a project like that. You're just like, okay, we need to get like these 70 pieces done.
Yeah.
And then we got to figure out the guitar sound.
Oh yeah, and that one, like, by the time I was involved, that was already done. It was like, okay, we're going in, and these are the things that we need to do. Yeah, I couldn't imagine, and we were even kind of talking about that, even just as for how the sound design would go and things on it. Like it came up one day that even just, okay, you make the decision that if there's going to be a noise when you throw a bottle against a fence, whatever, you throw a beer bottle on the fence and it breaks, there's going to be a sound for that. Okay, well, now there has to be a sound when you throw it on the ground. There has to be a sound when you throw it against a building. There has to be a sound when you throw it against a car window, and they're all going to be different sounds. And so things can kind of domino in that way.
Again, it's see a car, hear a car sort of thing. So it's not just, I had like from like older PC games, because I could pull the sound libraries out of it. It's funny when they have like 3 footstep sounds, 3 footstep sounds for like concrete, and then like dirt, and then it's like raining, and when as soon as you start digging into it and you start hearing it, you're like, they need to get more sounds, because like I hear the same 3 sounds over and over and over again. But
no, and that's something too that we kind of talked about a little bit, and yeah, like for something like that too, especially if everything's looping around, if you're going to be stuck on a particular level for hours or days or weeks or whatever. Like you want the music to be very good, and you want it to be hooky, and like you want people to enjoy it and for it to set the tone and all those things, but you don't want it to be
Annoying.
yeah, you don't want it to be too much of an earworm. If it's coming around every 32 bars and someone's on it for days, like, there's a level there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. Especially with some like RPG games and stuff like that, where just like there's a lot of pads and just it's musical,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
music, if that makes sense, because you're not like, okay, I know there's a loop that's just going, like there's a theme, and
Yeah.
that's good. It just kind of carries it. No, that's interesting. That's something I always, when I originally went to school, like one of the things I wanted to get into sound design for games,
Where did you go?
and I went to Academy of Design.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, because I did a sound technology course there. But my thing too was just like I just wanted to get into Toronto
Mm.
because I was from Peterborough, and I'm just like, if I get into Toronto, I could probably get around people and like figure stuff out. And again, you meet a few people, and now I'm
Yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just but it was very technical because it was more for TV and film, and
Oh,
that was my
interesting.
thing. Because another thing too is I want to be a Foley artist. That was
Oh,
the
how did you switch to music?
I just kept playing drums, and I kept just kind of getting pulled back into music. And I had a few
Funny.
people. I have a thing. If people that don't know each other say the same thing, it's probably right. And they just kept saying, the good ones keep getting pulled back into music. And I'm just like, I'm enjoying the music, so I'm not going to rock the boat about this. But yeah, it's just that an alternate universe. I'm a Foley artist. So
I didn't know that. Yeah, I always knew you from doing music stuff.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
just the sound design, just because like that, those are the projects I really enjoyed, where it's just like, okay, there's, there's like a chase scene, and there's like a bird thing, and there's just like stuff. And it's like, how can you make these sounds and make it believable with what you
Yeah.
have? And I thought that was kind of cool. And that, I think with, like with recording, like that's the thing. It's like, make it sound and feel like a band, like
Mm.
try to capture that and make it larger than life. And it was,
Yeah, that's an interesting thing sometimes when you go and see a band and they're awesome and you love them. And so you buy their record at the merch table or you look them up after, whatever, and you're like, wow, however you did this record doesn't capture what you do. That, I don't know, that kind of seems to be a common thing sometimes. For me,
I, I think they're two things. I consider like live music is to theater, recorded music is to film. Because there's things that you
okay.
can't pull off in the theater that you can pull off in film, and I think there's things that you can feel during theater that you can't exactly convey during film exactly. They're different mediums.
Yeah.
And so I'm of the thought, it's like, I'm not looking for a band to capture the record when they're on stage, but I want a different experience.
A different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100% on that. And I'll tell bands all the time. Do you get people that they'll want to not do something on a record because, oh, well, we're not going to be able to do that live because we don't have their
Yeah.
guitar player or the keyboard player or the thing or whatever. And my thought is always like, well, don't, if you've got a great idea that's going to help the song, let's do it. Who cares?
Don't
Like
not
the
do
live
it.
show can be a different thing. Yeah, the live
Yeah.
show doesn't have to be the record at all. Make the best record you can make, and then go out and put on the best show that you can put on. They don't have to be the same thing. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. I'm thinking more like just there'll be an energy that didn't get captured.
Well, on
sometimes, and that can be disappointing.
On the cool part, our friend Mike Turner, I remember him saying at Pocket Studios, him saying that like, the Edge from U2, he's got like 20 guitar parts going. But there's like the one that you can really make out that's like the song. And it's like, that's the part that people need to hear.
That's
and
a great
of course,
point.
with technology, we don't throw it in tracks and stuff like that, but it's just like, don't sell yourself short by not making that experience as cool as if you can make those layers and stuff like that. But there's the stuff that people actually need to hear. But as far as the capturing the vibe and stuff, it's like, I just think a lot of that has to do with the actual energy going in and hitting it quick getting it done and then getting it out. Cause like there's nothing I think takes the energy away from a recording than it's stretching out way too long.
Oh my God.
You know, you're 9 months, 10, 12 months, a year and a half into recording something. Meanwhile, if you were just to get it done in like 2-3 weeks, like just rip through it. So for me, EPs, 2 or 3 weeks, for records, 6 weeks. Like just get it done. Snapshot of where we were at. We were excited about it. Because, you know, 6 months later, you're like, oh, I don't know about that bridge anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like find some momentum and keep
momentum.
it going. Oh my God. And then even like once you're in too, I mean, I've been on things where, you know, they're into 100 takes of vocals and then we're going to go comp it. And it's like, no one's going to make sense out of any of it at that point. Like, let's do 3 to 5 kind of at the most. And if we don't either have it or we're not able to comp something from that, then let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to it. And maybe it's not the day for that song, or, you know, maybe whatever. I mean, you know, we'll hit another song and come back to it later or the next day or something. But like once you can't sift through 100 takes of vocals, and by the time you're listening to take 47, have any idea what take 3 sounded like. Yeah.
No, for anyone recording at home, I think if I'm getting sent stuff for vocals, I'm like 5 good swings at it, and then I can comp from that. But if you're with me, then we're not keeping 20 takes of something, because
no. And then even okay, you do your comp from the 5, and if there's stuff that you didn't get from that, then that's fine. You go and
put
you pick
Band-Aids
those
on
up.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, or you'd go do a couple of more after, like that's fine.
Yeah.
But if after 5 takes, it's not like, yeah, we've got one between those, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, you know, cut it, move on to something else, come back, go do a guitar solo or like whatever, put a keyboard part down, switch to another song, you know, whatever. Yeah. But don't make yourself sit through dozens and dozens of
no
stuff.
And that's I can go off on this because I think some musicians have been taught wrong, because I think sometimes producers or engineers have said not necessarily the wrong thing, but like, you know, comping a vocal and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you want the vocal to sound really good, but like, I think we know what we're working with. And also, you know, some people can, this is the disclaimer to cover yours, we know we can get away with Autotune and Melodyne. If we just need to dust it a little bit, just to, you know, to move, like, again, pitch and time, we can move things around a little bit. But if the energy and performance isn't there, you know, to begin with, it doesn't matter what we do. You can put it in time and in tune, but like if it still feels flat, you know, the energy feels flat, then it doesn't really matter. And it's like when artists or singers are like thinking like, oh, that's sharp, it's flat, let me do it again. It's like, no, it's good. Like it felt good. I'm just going to do that to the note a little bit.
Yeah.
And like we could, you know,
yeah, but there's no energy or vibe plugin that we can put on something to.
Yeah, you know, even distortion, but it still doesn't sound like it's got a lot of energy to it.
Well, no, and since you bring that stuff up too, like, you know, I mean, there's always extremes with everything. At the same time, I don't like the attitude of, well, it's in there somewhere, and you know, we'll just tune it, it'll be fine. Like, no, if you have a great take already to work from, and then dust it a little bit with, you know, whether it's Melodyne or Beat Detective or you know, whatever. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and you know, just about everybody does it. But not relying on that as a crutch, not just doing the 1 or 2 and being lazy and going, oh, whatever, we'll tune it. Because I see that a lot too. And like, even though, sure, you're still doing it, the results still end up way better if you're starting from a great take or a great comp, and just dusting it and kind of nudging things into place a little bit. That's a very different thing than using it like a crowbar. Right?
Need to make this work.
Or a sledgehammer or something.
Need to make this work.
Yeah.
Actually, it's Lori's chimed in here again. How many times have you used a scratch? Often the emotion is the best. How many times have you used parts of a scratch track?
Sometime. There was, I definitely have. There's times when there's just, there was a moment captured in time, and there was one thing I remember doing years ago where we had cut demos for a record at the singer's place, and this is before everybody had a rig at home, and when we were demoing stuff, it was a 58 or something directly into a 003 or probably earlier than that, probably an M-Box or something. With no compression, no other pre,
just straight down the cable,
straight down the 58 right into the thing, and it was fine. And then we get through all the pre-production. A couple months later, we cut all the guitars and drums and everything, and then we go and we pick up a really solid. We pick up an old U87 and an Apogee and a Millennia and some stuff, and had like a really great vocal chain. And we go to recut the vocals for that song, and there was, I don't remember if it was the verses or the choruses, but there was something with one of them that was staggeringly better about the demo, about the scratch track. And we tried a bunch of times and we couldn't beat it. And it was just like, okay, we're using the scratch. But whatever it was, whether it was the verses or the choruses or whatever it was, the other was better on the new mic and the whole new chain. So when it came to the mix, I had to match the 58 right into an M-Box or 001 or whatever it was against the, vintage 87 with a Millennia into an Apogee and whatever else we had.
Like $200 chain. Okay. It's like a $9,000 chain.
Versus the $9,000 chain. And you wouldn't know now. Like, I guess I matched it enough that,
it's interesting, Lori, bringing that up, because like sometimes you capture those moments when and I would always think, I'm one of those that uses a SM7 for vocals all the time, and it's like I would always try to make sure we'd have isolation on the vocals best we can during our scratch, just in case. Because there's nothing worse when you're like, this is great, but we ruined it because there's a cymbal in there or there's something in there that we can't get that out, and it's going to cause a problem. It's like I always try to make sure anytime we're on vocals, like, it's game time. Like, don't phone it in. Believe me, I'll tell you when to phone it in, but like, don't phone it in when we're getting a scratch done with the band and we're playing it.
Because you never know.
Things happen.
You're capturing a moment in time, and sometimes there's just that magic, and that doesn't always happen again. And oh my God, the number of times people have thrown down guitar tracks as a scratch, and there ends up being something just magical about the energy in it, but it was a scratch, so they didn't worry about their tuning. And that I can't tune.
Still, like, make sure it's good.
So that we do have to recut that, and
No, it's good advice. Again, when we're in record, like, record. Don't phone it in. Like, if you got stuff set up, like, give it your all. I'd always tell people,
always be recording.
Like
when the band says, "Oh, just throw us on input this time," or warming up for, I'm just warming up for a vocal. Don't keep this.
Don't worry about don't record this. Okay, sure. Apple spacebar.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a story in Mix magazine years ago about that was apparently the story behind Inagata de Vida.
Really? Like, that was the take?
Yeah, that was the take, according to something in Mix like 20 years ago, at least anyway. It had started as a however normal length rock song, and when they were working through it beforehand, it got longer and longer and longer, and they get into the studio and they tell the engineer, don't record this one, we want to just run it down once first. And like, that's the take.
I can only imagine you're setting up for that, and like, you realize 5 minutes into that, you're like, we really should have hit record on this.
Yeah.
Well, because like we don't even think about it these days. I guess it'd be different
I'm
with
sure
tape,
we've all been
but
there too. I've been there.
these
Where it's like, no, I wasn't getting that one,
yeah,
guys.
no, just hit record.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just like let it
and wait
record.
for me to stay rolling. Don't just assume.
Oh, the band. Yeah, no, it's just it is interesting with just some of the stuff that you know can go by. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but they said that they had a because like we've got our rigs obviously, but they would have like another like an ADAT or something like in the room that was just always recording whatever was going through the board, regardless if it was recording to the tape machine or Pro Tools or whatever. Because there's just a lot of like even just not the freak bands out, but just even some like in-room banter stuff and
totally
like live room banter stuff where just like there's some magic and gold and again just people just messing around and
or
like
a lot of people might have a dot rolling or something, you know, and then you have like a 2-hour tape in there and it's just kind of going, and if something you know, because I mean, who knows, like I mean I've certainly seen things as well where, you know, there's just something about the roughs or whatever, and you know, or just something about there's always just it's always just about something about the vibe. And if that happens, you know, it's something I should do. There was somebody was making a plugin for a while that did that. I don't remember who. It would always be buffering like
in the background
a few seconds or something. So if there was some magic there or whatever, you could hit record and then it would go from there and keep like the 30 seconds before or something. I don't remember what company that was.
I imagine somebody could figure that out, because like to throw that on your main output and it's just always just grabbing it and you know tucking that audio. Someone could do that. We're putting that on the internet right now, and
because there can even be cool things.
Ian gets a 10%.
Yeah, even when it's not okay, we're going for a take, or we're just, you know, just put us on input for this one, whatever. Even if people are just noodling around between things, like you were saying, like
someone's like, do that again.
Things can happen. Yeah,
do that again. What did I do? I don't know, but
I caught the last 20 seconds of it. Yeah,
I was trying to think of the recording stuff, like it's recording the scratches and you know bad tracks and stuff. My other thing too, if people are kind of like phoning it in, I would be like, pretend you're playing this on the radio live. Like what would you play if you can't really make mistakes? Like to play it safely but still well. Because
that's a good one.
People phoning stuff in, it's like, just pretend that we're doing this on the radio live, and how good are you right now? And that was to go back to you know, some of the pet peeves with bands and artists. It's like not being prepared. And that was my thing. I'm just like, so if your band had to play the song on the radio right now, like how is it going to go?
Yeah.
Because when you guys are still not sure, people are not sure about it. It's like, would you feel cool playing this right now live on the radio? Because that to me is like the line in the sand between like, are we ready to record this or not?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. Cause it's just, there's a safe way to play a song and a dangerous way to play a song.
Yeah,
but like, you know.
Well, and sometimes the dangerous way can be good. So,
it can definitely, but I mean the other end of the spectrum of dangerous. It's like, okay.
The spectrum of dangerous was a shit show. Yeah, that's
wheels might come off. This is not good. We're not ready. Ian, I've had you. We're gonna get close to 2 hours soon. I told you that the first hour it just melts by. I think this might be a good place to wrap things up.
Sure.
What do you got going on next while?
I'm working with this really awesome art. You might know him. Do you know AHI?
Sounds familiar.
Toronto guy, awesome musician. Sort of a folk, rootsy kind of thing. Great songwriter, great lyric writer, awesome performer. So I'm mixing a record for him right now.
Awesome.
That's kind of what's keeping me busy right now.
Well, I was going to ask you, anything else you want to plug? Any other projects?
Yeah,
it's one of those questions. It can catch people.
Yeah.
You're lying in bed. You're like, oh, I really should have brought this up.
Yeah, go check out this. Yeah, no, nothing's jumping out to me. Yeah.
just working away, keeping busy. Again, we
Just
chatted
working
briefly
away.
before. Like, there's it comes in cycles, it comes in waves, and it's just like a bunch of work shows up.
It does, and
You
it's
just-
funny. Do you find too that like people ask what you're working on, and you go blank?
You're
And
like,
you're
I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of have to look at my hard drives.
Yeah.
Like I know I've been in every day. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta look at the hard drives, you gotta look at the folders and the timestamps, and you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what we were doing. That's what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
Ian, where can everyone find you online?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not on Instagram a ton. I have Twitter, but I honestly never look at it. I never look at. No, it's true. I really don't look at it unless like I have it there so people can find me there.
You just park the handle, sort of
Yeah,
thing?
basically.
Yeah.
So if people are on Twitter and trying to find me, there's a thing they can find me on. But I really never look at that.
So the best place to get a hold of you is Facebook and Instagram?
Facebook or Instagram, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, Ian, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad that we could catch up a little bit before this. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll catch up a little bit after this as well.
Yeah, really good to see you.
All right. Oh, Pro Tools just did a Pro Tools thing. I got my music on Pro Tools. It hasn't crashed in a while. All right. My guest tonight again, Mr. Ian Bodzasi, producer, engineer, mixer. I will have Ian's details in the details below on YouTube as far as where you can find him and his links and information there. Again, story of starting out as an intern, sweeping floors. And then, oh, you're still there. So I didn't know if you froze or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, sweeping floors in a Toronto studio all the way up to senior engineer and then going freelance. And it's a long process, but just thinking back to it, probably feels like a little bit like a blur.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again,
it's a 20 whatever year blur. Yeah.
yeah, and I can only imagine that Tina Turner session. We were
Yeah,
just
that
like,
was
what
pretty
is going on here?
Yeah.
All right, thanks again to everybody that took part in the chat. Again, replay will be up on YouTube. Speaking of, if you are watching on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, and comment. If you're watching on Facebook, just remember to share. This is on Twitch as well, but we don't have many people watching this there. So, all right. Thanks again, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. That was a lot of fun.
Talk to you later, everybody. Thanks again, Ian. I think that went pretty well.
That was fun.
It's good. Again, it's hard to like not have these end up 2 or 3 hours.
Yes. I could have talked for another 2 hours and just got up.
Well, the fall. We'll have you back in the fall.
Sure,
We'll talk about
yeah.
how this year went.
Yeah.